Yar, har, fiddly dee. Being a pirate is alright to me. Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free.
You
what?
are a pirate.
Yar! Welcome, everyone, to the very first sort of intraman episode of Die Party Dead Man's Crest, a 7th Seas 2nd edition role-playing experience right here on Twitch. Holy shit, guys. I've been talking about this game, setting this up for what seems like fucking 4 or 5 months.
Since really
been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And some of the people in this game, namely Prylaw, we've been trying to work together for far longer than that.
Yeah.
Far longer than that. So everything is culminated and we're ready to go. Ah, shit. Let's introduce everyone. Let's start with a man you've probably seen before on this channel. Quite a lot, actually, over the past couple of months. Mr. Eugene, what up, sir? How you doing? Good to see you again.
I'm doing all right. I'm glad we start this alphabetically because I always get to go first.
Yeah. Alphabetic, yes. It's just the way that works out, man. Sometimes just sitting in the I'm the Eugene spot, and sometimes you're sitting in the I'm in the other slot. So yeah, it's just
Hey,
how
I'm
it
a
works.
man of slots. What can I say?
Oh damn.
Let's fill those slots with pirate.
Yeah, pirate
Pirate
puns.
slots.
Where can people find you, Eugene? This is the first episode, so.
You can find me at twitch.tv/Eugene, on Twitter at DSUjune, on YouTube at some ridiculously long name that I was supposed to simplify to a thing but probably didn't. Anyway, search for Eugene, and you might find something. Yeah, I'm good at breaking.
Yeah. Fantastic. Let's go on over to the next player we need to introduce, who I mentioned earlier, Mr. Prylaw. We've been struggling to work together for fucking months. It's been
Finally, it's come.
yeah,
So-
it's finally happened.
Yep.
But damn, man, good to see you. It's about fucking time.
Likewise, it's been a long time coming. So
Yeah, absolutely.
looking forward to doing some RP and kind of nervous, but you know, at the same time, I know you guys are a good set of guys to play with. So
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
yeah.
We'll
it's-
be gentle.
It's it's gonna be excellent. What is your experience in role playing?
I've done I've never done a full campaign, and I'm in the middle of one that I just started a few months back, and I've only played, I want to say, maybe 25 sessions in total.
Damn.
So I'm very, very new to this. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've introduced a lot of streamers to role-playing games here on the Die Party shows, so it's not unheard of to pop your cherry on fucking Die Party games, but
It's the first time I'm ever going to play anything that's hasn't been D&D. So
Yeah.
that'll be
Prylaw,
interesting.
I will say this: do not worry. Dr. Wreckage is a completely kind, understanding, and not at all mean GM. We'll be fine. Don't worry.
You never had me as a GM, Eugene.
Shh! I'm trying to lower his guard.
Oh god, this is gonna be fun.
Thank you, Ragtag, for pointing out that yes, I missed the last episode because I slept.
No,
in
no.
truth, I have not had Dr. Wreckage as a GM, though the last time I played with Dr. Wreckage, while my character was lying on the floor, barely alive, he came over and cut my head off with a sword. For no reason other than fluff me, that's why.
Fluff him.
So,
It was the last episode, and you knew my terrible secret, so everyone had
I super didn't, though. I super didn't
Anyways,
know
guys.
the terrible secret!
The last player that we need to introduce is a man who is no stranger to role-playing games. He hosts his own role-playing shows. Mr. James C. UK, what up, sir? How you doing?
I'm alright, thank you.
Welcome to Die Party,
I'm
motherfucker.
not very good at people bigging me up, really. It's a bit.
Aww.
Bless you.
Aww. Bless
I'm
you.
alright, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh man. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where can people find you? All that shit. What do you? What's your current Jimmy Jams when it comes to role playing?
You can find me at Twitch TV / James UK. Twitter is pretty much the same, James UK. I'm James UK all over. Wherever I can find my name, I'm taking it, because hopefully no one else will take it, because people confuse me for James Cock all the time when I go in people's streams.
Well, that is an unfortunate name similarity.
You gotta own that shit, man. If your name comes out James Cock, you gotta fucking do it, man. You gotta own that shit. You gotta fucking If my last name was Glasscock, man, no one would ever hear the end of it. You know, like.
No one would ever see the end of it either.
Yeah, you
Boom.
can't see it, but you can feel it.
Glass, I mean,
This joke.
so I mean, what I've been playing games for like 20 odd years,
Shit.
and on my channel, what we do in Dungeon World on a Sunday, and then Legends of the Five Rings on a Tuesday.
So how much of your experience in this 20 years is mostly like D&D versus like other systems?
I hardly ever play D&D. I've never liked it.
Yes! Oh my god, fucking awesome. That's awesome. I love it when people say that, because sometimes you run into like people like Brad Woto, who's just like, yeah, I've been playing for like 17 years, but I only play Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like, Jesus, man.
Well, I mean, we started with AD&D second edition Ravenloft in like 90s,
Yeah.
but that only lasted a few months, and we played Warhammer, we played White Wolf, we played, I'm just looking at myself right now, Shadowrun, just anything other, and a lot of Star Wars D6 as well, especially when I was younger. But I like rules light systems, where I don't have to, as a GM, I don't have to do as much work, because I'm not very good at doing work. The less work, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, Wreckage was handed a silver platter for this game, and he's like, throw it away! We're doing something new. So.
That's what I did. It was like, well, because what originally happened with this game was Dave was like, I need a show for the Wednesday slot. What haven't we done yet?
Yeah, we went through all the popular
We've
systems. Yeah.
We've gone through all the popular systems, all the popular genres, and then it didn't like. And then Dave was like, "Well, there's like 7th that just came out," and I was like, "Pirates! We haven't done a Die Party pirate game yet. Pirates, 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 pirates."
Mm-hmm.
And then we started talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, and then I said how I would do sort of a Pirates of the Caribbean narrative. And Dave was like, "You want to be GM?" And I was like, "Well, right now I'm in like 3 other shows." And then all those shows died, and now we have from the ashes, Die Party Dead Man's Crest.
Yeah.
Which, as we said, the idea was originally like, let's do something sort of Pirates of the Caribbean. We cracked open the 7th Sea book, and that was high fantasy.
Oh yeah, it's like the first thing you get introduced to is like, whenever you kill someone in the name of your king, and it's like, was not expecting that.
It is not a book that focuses on its namesake, which is, you know, 7th Sea, piratry, a sea being the 7th sea, and then you're on that sea.
It's chivalry, though, isn't it? That's
It
not
is.
chivalry.
It's chivalry.
It's like
not chivalry.
it's trying to be
swashbuckling.
Yeah,
That's
it's like it is still that era, but that first book is almost entirely devoted to what if you were like a European aristocrat and like a musketeer. It's much more musketeers than it is.
You're more fighting pirates, are you not?
Yeah, well, you don't even do that unless you go onto the sea, and then it's like you can either be a pirate or like a navy ship. And like,
to put in perspective, you need a goddamn
5
splat
pages.
book to make that shit happen, right? One of the things that you'll notice if you go through this book, which next week we're going to be doing character creation after we do this world building episode, so it's not like we're not going to get into too much of it, but basically the way that it goes is you pick a nation and you pick a background for your character creation. You pick 2 backgrounds actually, but going through it, there's a distinct lack of like naval backgrounds, right? And you need a splat book to find the naval backgrounds.
And then the splat book adds all the piratry too, but it's still like super super high fantasy, because then you get like This is the analog completely. It's like ancient Greece area, and then also like voodoo, like high magic island place. And it's like we want a Pirates of the Caribbean feel, and in that movie there is a curse and it's the main plot, but the majority of it is about sailing, pirates, unrequited love, revenge, the colonies versus pirates, go to the gallows and get hanged. Not everybody is casting fireball. And in 7th Sea sort of basic, like they aren't necessarily casting fireball, but everybody has
the ability to.
If I cover my cannonballs in oil and light them on fire, will I be casting fireball?
I'm not sure it would work.
Great balls of fire.
Cannonball would move too fast.
I'm
What if I use only the best bourbon?
After covering it in oil and
And it's
lighting
on
it on fire,
You
will
are
I
not.
be casting fireball?
You are casting a fireball in the way that one casts a baseball.
So Ragtag brought up a good idea, a good point there. It's more Pirates of the Caribbean what we're going for than say something like One Piece, which is also like another sort of thing. But the Seven Seas lore and stuff like that is kind of neither. It's almost like the best way I would describe it is kind of if they took like the setting of say Pathfinder and then they made it like and they put little bits of ships stuff in there and they separated all the continents by like water. That's basically what that is, and it's I don't know, it didn't like the mechanics serves our purposes, but not the
point
lore.
is,
yeah.
It's a very rich and interesting setting, and I encourage anybody who's watching to pick it up and play it if they end up liking the mechanics we'll be using. But it wasn't what we were going for. So we're now going to take on, well, mostly me, but I'm also going to involve the players in this episode, the Herculean task of ripping out a setting entirely from a mechanics and doing a new one. We're going to be going for sort of 1400s to 1600s Earth as our base, right? All of these imperial colonial powers, and recently maybe there's been a new world discovered, although maybe not. We'll sort of get there. Sailing and piracy is rampant as the powers vie for power, and privateering is a viable career path. Maybe there are also dead gods and curses and cursed gold, but most people wouldn't know about it. And it would be confined to the realm of sea shanties, and it'll probably be our players that encounter the most of it of anybody.
Yeah, being PCs in a world full of NPCs, we are the most unlucky / lucky.
Listen.
Let me tell you a story.
You can only find the best loot in the corpse of a dead god.
It's true.
It's very true.
They are made out of loot. That's how that works.
I think with the actual setting itself, I think it's so that you can do whatever you like. Do you know what I mean?
And
It doesn't just.
every good system is like, these are our suggestions. Go ahead and do what's best for your table. And we're doing that by completely gutting it like a dead fish. So I've got a couple of directed questions that I'm going to hopefully have answered.
Okay, so before we get started, it's worth pointing out too, if you are a Patreonus of Die Party, which is patreon.com/Henley, you'll have an opportunity to also create a nation /island /whatever it is that we're doing today, with your certain levels of Patreon backing. After this episode goes up, I'm going to be making a couple of questionnaires or what have you, and once all that's done, you'll have about 2 weeks to put it all together, basically. And I'll
have about 1 week to put it together.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got 2 weeks. We got character creation as well and all that stuff.
Yeah, but I need to have all my world stuff ready.
Okay, so a week. Yeah, you'll have a week basically, and with that information, Wreckage will, populate the world with some Patreons. stuff.
Yeah.
What is the top level of your Patreon support there, Henley?
To get into the actual like doing things, I guess it would probably be the Nine Party Friend level, which is the $15 one. We'll probably have something in there for the $5 one as well.
There's plenty of room for naming NPCs, like maybe
Yeah.
one sentence. I'm gonna have to have a lot of 2-sentence descriptions of random crew members, because there's going to be.
Oh yeah, ship crew members. Oh yeah,
Right.
like if you're in the $5 tier Patreon, you're gonna be fucking filling out ship names and stuff. It's,
Right.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, it'll be fine because unlike Warhammer, where there are 50,000 people on the ship, and so it is a fool's errand to try and stat them all out or name them all.
Oily Joe.
Hey, Joe.
There will be there will be a knowable number of people on any ship you
Yep.
guys end up on.
Mhm.
So, we're actually going to have a narrative hook for this game that is going to make you guys move from ship to ship a little bit. So that'll be nice because it'll keep things going, and it means that nobody's going to be like the captain or anything, which is I think will be interesting. So we'll encounter a lot of crews, and so there'll be a lot of room for people's 1 to 2 sentence description of random pirate and or sailor to make it into the show. So that said, we have a few things that we need to get done to world build, and we're gonna start. We're gonna start with the map, which we are going to populate with your nations. And as you have ideas for your nations and etc., you have my blessing to put them on the map.
We got big old blue space. The girl
got-
is blue.
we
The
got a lot
island
of
of False Hope is in
This is
the
this is the
center.
this is the seed we're going to start with. The island of False Hope, in our setting, is going to be a superstition among sailors.
Also, the first planet we went to in Wood Barons.
The island of False Hope is a superstition among sailors in our world, where if you are lost overboard or at sea, you will not die. First, you will wash ashore on the island of False Hope, which is said to have sand the color of rust, dead symmetrical trees, a tower in the center that no one can get to. You will wake up on the island of False Hope at sundown, and you have until sunrise to get off the island, or you will die. Which is why it's the island of False Hope, because you are saved from drowning at sea by this island, but you have no means of getting off. And if you don't by sunrise, you are. It is said that you will go to neither heaven nor hell and will suffer for eternity. Like that sort of terrible hearsay. It's because of this island that rescues at sea are rare. Whereas in a normal setting, it might be man overboard, we have to save him. People are so afraid themselves of ending up in this place that superstitious sailors, in the same way that some sailors are not superstitious and some are, and some sailors might be like, oh, it's bad luck to bring a woman aboard or whatever. There'll be other sailors that are like, well, we can't save that guy. It's bad luck. We'll end up on the island will take us.
Nice. All right, so we can make like superstitions for the thing we want to go with, because the first thing that came to my mind, and if you don't mind me stepping out and going first here, I would love to see like a Spanish like Inquistadors sort of like island, like people like I'm talking like super rich, has their own gold, like let's fall into Treasure Island tropes here and say that they're very rich gold mines on their island, and they're
So you want an island where the people are very rich and have gold mines? Like what's more? What else is there? What are we?
They
They're
have.
just fabulously wealthy. They're an
That's-
island, or are they
yeah.
a whole nation?
It's probably a giant. Well, it's probably like sort of like Australia as a continent, but also an island sort of thing.
So it's sort of a continent then. So is this a
Yeah.
nation? Is this a nation you're going to be from? Or
Yeah,
is this...
I think so. Yeah. I think this is the reason why I want them, because I want to have like a Spanish influenced character. That's sort of what I want to go for here.
So it's like it's an isle apart, like say the United Kingdom or Australia,
Mhm.
but it is sort of vaguely Mediterranean, sort of Spanish.
Yep. So it would probably be like northern on the map somewhere, because of the equator. Unless we're not going by like,
Well, like the Mediterranean and Spain are so nice because they actually are kind of close to the middle.
yeah, like on the equator sort of thing, like probably around there. So that's what I'm thinking.
What else do you want? Like, what else is notable about this nation? They have a lot of gold. in
Yeah,
their
like
mine.
they probably have a lot of banks, right? They probably buy a lot of. They probably like. I'm not entirely sure how you want to do like the economy in this world, but I imagine that because they have the largest resources of gold mines in the known, understood and found
So they
universe.
they have large mineral wealth.
Yeah.
Uh,
They probably dictate and probably have a lot of like banks from other countries in this country, and they're kind of almost
Sure.
like Sweden in a way, but they also probably are a lot of the ships that leave are probably targets for a very
Yeah,
strong
well, maybe
pirate
it's-
forces and stuff.
maybe it's a situation where, they have so much gold and their coinage would be gold. It would be a gold standard, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, it would be a gold standard. Yeah.
so maybe even though other nations are of equivalent power, then it might be that this nation, this sort of Spanish gold mining nation, sort of sets the world currency,
Yes.
right? Like
Mhm.
like all other currencies are sort of set against, the
The doubloon.
the whatever this.
Can we
this-
just call it doubloons? Can it just be doubloons? Because that's way too fun. That's super fun. Like
Sure.
I just,
So this nation's coinage is called the doubloon, and all other currencies in the world are sort of compared against the. What's the name of this nation, by the way?
that's a good question. I'll have to think on that. Like, let me try and think of like something Spanishy sounding.
To Google.
Yes.
Google.
To Google. El Dorado. No, let's
Just
just
name
call it.
it
Let's just call
Spain.
it El Dorado. There we go. El Dorado.
No, it's got to be something new.
Damn it.
Everything was fine until the Gold Nation attacked.
Yeah.
Damn. Spiralation. I can't even fucking say that, Flugger. That's yeah. Mexico Island. God. All right. Spanish Islands.
Bank of Bravos.
Oh, don't let me stop everyone from doing some stuff. What are everyone else's ideas?
I know it's incredibly tropey, but I can't help myself. I want an island of cannibals.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
I don't actually want a majority of the population to know they're cannibals.
So do you want this to be almost more like rather than the standard sort of swashbuckling trope about the Isle of Cannibals is that they're a bunch of like tribal like savages and you land and your whole crew gets eaten. What I'm hearing is not everybody knows about it. Maybe it's more like
It's a religious thing.
well, maybe it's more like what I'm saying is maybe it's more like the trope of the town that's secretly vampires. but like it doesn't need to actually be supernatural. Just like the idea of, oh, welcome to the town. How are you? Like they're all civilized and fine, but secretly because they think they get something
secretly
out of
they're
it.
super cannibals.
Secretly they're cannibals.
So
I would be perfectly okay with that. But what I was more thinking was a tropical island with, instead of the normal tribal nonsense, just a normal village set up with a government and such, but with a strong religious / superstitious underpinning, where they have these religious festivals and everybody in the church is very segregated from the rest of society, but on these religious festivals they eat, stew. Everybody comes to the capital city in the center of the island or whatever, and they all eat out of a giant pot of stew.
Do you know what that reminds me of?
What?
In Deadlands, you got the what's his face in Los Angeles, and they all eat people without knowing it.
So it's tropical. Now my question is, are these tribal peoples, or are they descendants of one of our major sort of European nations analogs? Are they civilized?
I honestly was thinking that it was like a mix. Like there was a tribal native inhabitants to the island, and that the church that is feeding them people was from one of the other nations that has, gone a little mad at sea and decided, yeah, I'm going to feed them their own criminals because fuck them. That's why.
So why is the church feeding them cannibals?
Because they went mad at sea and then had a religious revelation that.
So they had an epiphany or whatever, and now
to get closer to the Almighty, you must eat the flesh of something.
The damned.
Thy neighbor.
Thy neighbor.
Hey Barry, nice wife. What's for dinner? So
I get Wreckage. I would be perfectly okay with the super friendly "we're going to eat you when you're not looking" trope as well. That would be me.
Well, so I like this idea about the corruption of one of the nation's churches. I want to actually spool it back a little bit, and use this as a springboard to be like, okay, so there's a civilized church that at sea sort of developed a cannibalistic rite. What might they look like in their uncorrupted form? What does one of the churches of these major nations look like that they would their fanatics could possibly end up in that direction?
I would say something along the lines like they probably have some tenet where throughout the year they're probably mostly vegetarian, and then on their holy days they eat the flesh of the land, lamb, beef, something like that. But normally they would eat something like fish, and then just they're
So they sort of have this law about almost analogous to kosher, right? And they have a big celebration where they break that fast, but it sounds like they usually eat like fish and vegetables, but they abstain from like lamb, pork, cow.
Yep.
And then somehow that turned into, in this corruption, the flesh of man.
This would be my guess. So one of these priests went out on a voyage.
Mm-hmm.
The voyage, obviously was well stocked, had all of the supplies that this person could have ever possibly needed. Unfortunately, a storm came up, wrecked the ship. Not to the point where he was drowning or anything, but broke the mast. He's dead in the water, just floating along the current. Eats all of his supplies. Now he can still fish, but on his high holy days, he's supposed to eat the flesh of the land. What is he to eat? He's the only one who survived. There's nothing around him but the dead bodies of his fallen comrades. He has to observe the feast.
I see what you're saying. So it's like okay. So This sounds more like a is it a cult of personality, or is this long past this man's life? Like, is it this guy who's still sort of preaching eat man?
Like, does he have an extendedly long life? You know, like
I'm not saying he's necessarily mystical. I'm saying he could be if you want that to be a result of what he's done.
super cool.
But
I
is
mean, my thought was he got to this island, kind of viewed it as the epiphany of he ate this flesh, then found this island. So obviously, he felt he did the right thing, and then built up this island by being civilized and giving them these things and civilizing them, but also starting this church/cult. I do kind of like the idea of him eating flesh and having a longer than normal life. I do
why don't you sit on that
I'm
and
sitting on it.
come back to us with the version that you want to have. Meanwhile, I'm going to bounce back to Dave and say you cannot name your continent the Island of Gold just in Spanish.
Come
He
on.
also has Google.
Come on. No, that was Farrell who gave me that idea. But come on.
No, you're gonna have to put some work into this. No low effort posts. We're not shit posting our world building. Low effort posts will be removed.
I do have an idea for a nation as well.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Obviously, it's going to be influenced by my own nation, because they were quite a massive nation during that period.
They were quite
So I was thinking-
colonial.
I'm thinking of like, I don't know what to call it because I'm not very good with names. Names are definitely not my strong point. But I was thinking about like, in England there's a class. Well, there was a class system. Technically, there still is.
Technically,
And I think that there's a queen. She rules this empire,
Queen.
and
Alright.
they're a very industrial nation. Very like maybe at the start of the Industrial Revolution. So they're not massively like steamships and stuff, but they're on their way to get because you said you don't want that, but
Right.
they're on the verge. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So they're churning out ships. They may not be the biggest ships, and they may not be the most powerful ships, but they've got the biggest fleet.
Maybe they're not
in the world.
Maybe they're not the most wealthy, because obviously we've established the wealthiest nation, but maybe they've better turned their people to the actual process of industry. They've got
The way I was looking at it is the capital, whatever it's called. Maybe it's called maybe the populace calls it the Smoky because it's constantly covered in like smoke and fog and smog and stuff.
interesting.
And there's towers that rise out that the rich live in these towers that they live above the smog so that they don't have to breathe it in, and the poor are just the real poor are just pushed down to the bottom, and they have to live on this almost city bottom.
Interesting. So maybe again, and feel free when I start inputting on your ideas, everyone feel free to be like, that's not what I was going for, which some people have already done. Maybe they've got this sort of this mega city that is so smoky and sooty. Maybe one of their problems is space. Maybe they're a small island nation, and that's why they become colonial. Maybe the reason why their city is so built up and they have to have this, the rich above the poor, is because they really just don't have much land. Is that something that makes sense to you?
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe the poor are considered basically slaves. They don't have a choice in what they do. They're not educated. They're not taught anything. They're just they're forced onto ships and stuff like that. And and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
With that in mind, how much space does like the island with all the gold have? Like, is it more or is it around the same? Like,
I mean, I've drawn it. It sounds like it's going to be probably like if one of the things about this nation, the reason they sort of have like mega cities is because they're sort of cut for land, then it would certainly be smaller than your nation where that's not part of the story, right?
Oh yeah. They can't. I mean, if their supplies were cut off because they've got no farmland, there's nothing to grow. They have to ship people out. They have to move people out and take control of, and put a flag down, and take control of like.
So maybe
take over the natives and stuff.
Almost their navy and their empire is the only thing keeping them afloat, whereas Dave's nation has material wealth as it is.
Well, they've probably got wealth. They've probably got land value and stuff. They've probably got like there is wealth behind it, but
Coal, maybe they're still like coal's not as big if you don't have steam power yet.
well, like I said, they're on the verge. Maybe they've invented the steam. Maybe they've invented a steam engine, but it only runs like press.
Would you say that they have like iron? Like would you say it's more iron that they have? Like I imagine a lot of their clothing, a lot of their military, maybe, or maybe a lot of their ships are very light, sort of iron.
James, how do you feel? How do you feel about this? I'm thinking about what if we sort of take. I can see the Britain in your idea, right? I can see where Britain comes from in that idea. What if we take another thing too and add it to that, so that it's a little bit deviant? I'm thinking, what if we add sort of a? You said that the lower classes were maybe not exactly slaves, but akin to slaves. You know,
no rights at all.
They don't hold the means of production at all. What if that comes from a history, and maybe this country's imperial dominance comes from a history too that is not unlike, say, Viking pillagers? Maybe they have always been masters of the sea, and they had a history of sort of kidnapping and oppressing people for their
sure.
And then
they're wankers. Yeah.
Now they've become civilized, and so they have terms that they use and flags that they plant and governors.
Would you say that their island wasn't even theirs to begin with?
That's possible. They like the Vikings and even
they went there because it was super rich and they just fucking expanded.
We could. I mean,
they're like, hey, this is nice. Let's stay here.
We could go with how England was formed. It is formed from like multiple countries invading it, and then there's suddenly a flatbed, and they build power from there.
All right, so no one invade us anymore. We're full. What did you bring? Fish. What did you bring? Chips. What did you bring? Tea. All right, country's done. Let's go.
Yeah, we're done. What did you bring? Mushy peas. Get out.
Get out.
Get up north. Get up north.
I brought the weather with me.
Yeah, it's constantly pissing. Perhaps it is constantly pissing down, or on the threat of pissing down as well.
You made, oh my god, he basically made them the island of Japan. That's great.
No, I'm doing more. Like, I've got this vision of like
small little islands put together, yeah.
Well, like a lot like the United Kingdom actually is, which is sort of like a big island and then some other islands.
Like each of those little islands is basically its own culture.
Like, yeah, like maybe there's a town or something, and it's just like this fractured mountainous in some places, so they don't have a lot of arable farmland.
Our food culture is probably sorry, I'm saying now, like ours is a hodgepodge of like mixtures from different cultures, where we've gone there and go, oh, we like that. Like curry powder was invented because the British that came back from India missed the taste of the spices in the meats. They made curry powder.
Wreckage, is there any way that you could like fill in the islands or something? Because it's kind of hard to see.
I know it is.
Yeah.
Roll20. If anybody from Roll20 is ever watching anything I ever do, for the love of God, put a paint can feature in your goddamn map drawer. It's the only thing we're missing to make really like cohesive maps. Please add a paint can feature.
And I guess you could take a photo of this and put it into...
I mean, if you want, I do have campaign cartographer. Not the greatest at using it, but I might be able to throw something.
Yeah, we're just going to use this for now, and then maybe we will come back. We might even commission like a really nice map. That sounds like a pretty fun idea. Like after we're done getting it set up, and then I add some stuff that you guys haven't, some stuff for me. Just for me. Some stuff for me.
I want my own island. It's called Wreckage
get, like, a
Island.
really nice, like Renaissance era style map of the world with like sea dragons on it and stuff. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
But I mean, perhaps they are a more, even though they're not advanced, but they are advanced in technological spectrum. Perhaps they are a few years ahead of most other countries. So they're not the richest because they spend a lot of their money on research and development or whatever. Maybe there's an island called something similar to Scotland where all these inventors come from.
Well, I think it's much more just that they've had, and I think I'm safe saying this, like they've just always been the dominant navy. Like it used to be that they were pillagers and kidnappers and invaders, and now they've moved into sort of a civilized, like standing navy with ships of the line.
I'm just imagining like most of the populace lives on houseboats. Like, you can't say that.
Honestly, with as much space as they have and the description of mega cities, there's probably, if there's a safe harbor, then they probably do sling a bunch of rafts together and just make like land out of rafts and stuff like that. That might well be
Like
something
there might
that
even be like
happens
in between some of the islands. There might even be like floating bridges, barges, or whatever. Almost.
Oh yeah, totally.
That people
That
live
sounds.
on.
Well, like London, one of the bridges in London, they had like
Yeah.
houses all over it and stuff like that, and shops and stuff.
There could absolutely, like, maybe between one of these islands they built a bridge and then they just built apartments up on it, and like it's that
And built
it's,
across, and then the sea now just it's just this polluted piece of disgusting river that, a bit like the Thames, that runs right under it.
I've also put this island slightly north so that it can occasionally experience snowfall, which would make it sooty snowfall in their major cities, which
Black
happens
snow.
in London. Exactly.
Black snow. Okay. Yeah. I like it.
All right. So that's a good base to work off. Do you have a name for this nation?
No, not yet. Can you give me some time to think of?
Oh,
something?
go
Names are fucking hard, right?
Keep in mind that you can do things like how the United Kingdom is a name, right? You can name it like the Confederation of or whatever. Or like remember that when you're naming a nation, there's more options than just Bill or Tom.
The island of Bill.
I do have an idea, but it doesn't really fit. But it's a kind of ironic name, the Emerald Isles.
I mean, yeah, like maybe they were emerald because they used to be like rolling with lumber and greenage.
No. It used to be grass, as far as the eye can see, and now it's the opposite.
Yeah, that's a good working name.
All right, I like that.
What else do people have for ideas? Like, for example, Eugene added just an island that isn't obviously his nation of origin. It's just an idea. What else do people want to see in this world?
I
Or
mean,
does anybody else have a
Eugene,
nation?
do you have an idea for where you want your person to be from? Or do you want him to be from the Cannibal Island?
Uh-oh.
No.
Because when I was like, pirate game, yo, I'm going to be Spanish. Like, that seems fun. So I just like, fuck it, man. As long as it's a Spanish, like, thing in the game, and as long as they're just, like, dainty and rich or whatever, or, like, hoity-toity, then I'm fucking happy with that. That to me is
Yeah, I
the
would like to
perfect-
see a Lawless place. That's kind of like a Tortuga, if you will.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ooh.
No, so absolutely. Lawless pirate island. Now,
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't know if I wanted to necessarily make it completely pirate. Just complete, like there can be pirates in there, just not like Tortuga seems like it's mostly just pirates, from kind of what
Right.
what I've seen. But I want it to be more than just that.
well, okay. So, let's talk about Tortuga itself. And the reason why it had sort of a lawless reputation in the real world. It was a disputed colony. The Spanish made it, the French invaded it, the English invaded it. Like they kept replacing it each other.
Kinda taking
Eventually,
over, yeah.
what ended up happening was that because it was sort of always changing hands, it didn't have the most established, like ownership wasn't well established, and so then pirates were able to come in and take it, and no one was sort of in a position.
Exactly. No one really had an alliance to either side because it was so disputed over. I like that idea. It's cool.
And then Well, and then what ended up happening was there was a very brief period of time where like where the sort of the idea of like the piratical Tortuga comes from, where the pirates were in charge and it was lawless and every man on the salt of his beard and everything like that. And then eventually they stopped being pirates and started like selling wood, and then just became like a normal city, like because it became less profitable for them to be dealing with pirates. And as people started to grow up there, like they got normal jobs. And so there was a very brief window where Tortuga was this, if every city in the world were like Tortuga, no man would ever feel wanted. And then slap by two prostitutes. So if we want to have a lawless island, which I love, let's ask ourselves, how does this island maintain its lawlessness?
Shipbuilding.
Why is it maintained? Well, that seems like the exact opposite of a place that would be able to maintain lawlessness.
Well, no, I mean pirates
that keeps
gotta
it
have
in disarray.
Yeah.
And not being able to
What
establish.
keeps it from somebody like a nation coming in and being like, "This is our place"?
Oh, okay. You know what it was? Let's say that British counterparts.
Well,
were...
hold on a second, Dave.
Okay.
If you don't mind me stopping, this is Prylor's idea. It sounded like he had an idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it could have been like, almost like, where people would throw off people they didn't want anymore, like their prisoners they didn't want to deal with. They would throw to this island.
Oh, so like Australia, right? Penal colony.
Kind of, yeah. If you will.
Penal colony, maybe even like a refuge for the sick, and then, well, so let me ask: do the people have a revolution, or do pirates come in and be like, "We're going to free you," in exchange for us being in charge? Does that mean that specific pirates are in charge, and it's not lawless so much as governmentless?
I would say it's not the pirates. I would say it's more of a revolution, and people kind of rose up and tried to like make it better for them there instead of having the pirates come in.
So a penal colony island that has overthrown the bonds of the nations that created it. There are, as of yet, 2 nations unfounded. There probably will be even more after that, because there'll be nations other than where you guys are from. But would you say that you have a strong opinion for what nation might have founded this penal colony? Do all nations use it, or was it just the criminals of one nation?
It kind of was like we were saying, a disputed area where people wanted to actually settle it, and then it just got war torn, and people just didn't want it anymore, and it was just like throw their people there that they don't want anymore.
Well, maybe there was natives there or something. Because
possibly
the only thing that would stop people coming in is either maybe around it, it's like really hard to get ships in and out of it because of how rocky or like coralized it is or something. Like make it something super hard to settle in or something.
I have a suggestion.
Could be a swamp.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, to go along with it's an island of cast-offs and unwanteds, essentially.
We don't want no cannibals here. You can keep it. I'm kidding.
I was going to say perhaps the closest nation to it used to use it as a leper colony.
That's what I was thinking as well, because they would cast away their sick.
It's possible that all of the lepers have died off, but the cast-off who got sent there were the ones who discovered the lepers died off and are trying to make a run of making this a nation, but no nation is going to come colonize a leper colony.
Like, as an Australian, I can tell you right now, the reasons why the biggest problems they had in Australia were the fact that it was super hard to land on the island because of the beaches and stuff. A lot of Australia's coastline is basically sheer cliffs. And the natives as well, right? Like that was part of the reason why it was super hard to colonize.
I like the sheer cliffs. That'd be really cool to have it up.
Based on
above
that,
the water.
I've created the island here on the map now. with the idea being
Where'd
that
you
sort of
put
the
it?
exterior of this island is all sheer mountain, and the interior is the only part
Oh, there
that's
it is.
usable. But the only way for ships to get in is this sort of like very rocky, dangerous pass.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
So they've got this great bay and this great inland, but it's just a like total shithole on the outsides. And that actually makes it like this incredibly defensible position as well, which might cause this new federation of free peoples to become eyed by maybe some
New Federation of Free People. That's the working of a pirate fucking clan right there.
The NFFP, NFOFP.
We work on the name, yeah.
The island of Nafop.
We call ourselves the Freemans.
right. So
Freemans.
Peoples.
I didn't have any.
Please.
The other thing is you
You're
might
right,
have
that's
noticed,
sexist. My beard.
I've drawn this island, but I didn't draw Eugene's island, and the reason I didn't draw Eugene's island is because nothing immediately struck me out about what the shape.
Come on, it's a giant skull. It's a giant fucking skull.
No.
No one can see. No one sees it from the top, man. No one can see it from the top. They don't know it's the skull.
Yes,
Only the
but
audience
also-
knows it's the skull.
Right, but also it's like that
don't wanna
island was a skull long before there. If it's skull shaped, it was skull shaped long before there were people who did cannibalism on it. Like,
It's a product of their
No, I
cannibalism.
imagine it's like a super happy island.
Yeah, it's just like it's
a
called
giant
like
smiley face on the ocean.
Always
guar-
a nice breeze. Always a rainbow in the distance. It's a nice place.
No, it's a beautiful place with
I-
waterfalls,
Waterfalls.
like wonderful beaches, like highly populated, just with a touch, just a smidge.
of cannibalism
I guarantee
on
you.
Sundays.
I guarantee you that if any island in my game is going to be skull shaped, it's going to be like the nicest place.
Yeah.
It's because the place, the people, and the civilization will always come after the shape of the island. So it's not their fault that their island is skull shaped.
I like
And
the
it's
idea
their
as well
curse.
that it's like from the outside it looks terrible, right? It looks spooky and there's wind and like rocks or like waves hitting rocks. But then you get on it, it's just people just be like, "So what are you doing this Wednesday?" It's so
Playing
boring
small.
being rich and fat.
Dr. Wreckage, I have another idea for an island.
All right.
We have desperate need of it at the current moment.
We also have desperate need of your nation, but yes, please.
That is what I'm giving you right now.
Oh, so you also want an island nation?
Well, I didn't want to be from the cannibal ones. I didn't realize I'm
Are you sure?
Cannibal Island.
I totally thought you
Well-
were gonna be a cannibal. I'm like, this is gonna be interesting.
I don't.
I
I,
considered it.
I don't. I don't want
Hey
to force
guys,
you
is
into-
my arm getting shorter every day? I can't.
So I don't want to. I don't want to force anyone into anything, Eugene. And so please, by all means, your nation can also be an island. But at some point, this planet will need a continent.
Fine, it's a continent.
I mean, could the continent not be off map?
We would eventually include it because if this is a major nation, then it would be known. Like we could definitely have stuff that is off the edge of the map and in the unknown world. This is only just the briefest of overviews. But maybe some of our nations should probably share a land border. And make it have there be interesting things to fight over.
Well, maybe there's a place. Maybe something has been recently discovered. Maybe there's been a recent war over it, and everyone's
possible.
sort of drawn to a complete stalemate over it. All the big nations, and there's now like perhaps almost a cold war going on between all the nations, which is why there is no alliances because they're all trying to screw each other over.
Well, that's actually where I was kind of going with my nation.
Tell me more, Eugene.
So, my nation, and you can decide to make this a continent or an island. I don't much care about the size of the landmass, but my concept was essentially a breadbasket kind of nation. Heavy on the agriculture, heavy on just farmland and plains and trees, and even wineries. Just all of the food is here. Like it doesn't have beaches. It has soil. You know, these aren't really a seafaring people. You have traders who come and take.
It has and coastline.
Yeah, it has a coastline, but this isn't a tropical location. This is Greenland. Excuse me, Iceland.
Right. So it's heavy on the agriculture.
Yeah.
So
it was also my idea to tie the two of them together as this being the place where the religion of the gentleman or lady who went all insane came from. So a very agricultural base.
Sure. All right. I'm just sort of thinking here about the shape of our world.
And the tie-in that I was thinking was, so none of these other nations really have a great way of producing food. So the gold nation probably trades with this nation.
Oh yeah, like wine. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the definitely not England, but totally fucking England island, probably comes and tries to raid this place, leading this place to have like a militia, be kind of
on the
like
coastline.
It was before the Saxons or after the Saxons, and no. After the Normans, before the Saxons, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like a standing kind of, oh crap, they're coming to murder us and take all of our things.
How close would you say, like, so this brings up a good point, because I imagine a majority of the trade happens between these two continents, between the Spanish one and the and you know, your breadbasket. So do you want to say that it's actually a very dangerous journey to go from the gold one and your one? Like, would you say that they're like at extreme ends?
Well, that almost the thing is,
because how would piracy happen, right?
Right. Well, there's plenty of piracy as long as there's trade, but don't worry about that, because the thing is, if he's agricultural, he couldn't be far away from you guys and trade, because that you haven't invented.
It would rot.
Right. So they have to be within, like it can be. You can trade agricultural goods between Italy and Spain, right? But you can't trade agricultural goods between Italy and the United States of America, you know, at this era.
Maybe we invented cans already.
No, don't bring up cans. No!
That's a man who enjoyed these cans.
No! We're never going to get away from void bearers ever again.
I don't understand.
Don't worry about it. There was another show we did. It's a joke.
Say, totally over my head as well.
Don't. It's best you don't understand.
Yep, there we go. Chat's heard it. Yep. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't even know.
But yeah, no, I figured the two exports of this place would essentially be agriculture goods and just ministers. just not ministers, missionaries. Just missionaries going to spread the good word.
Right, sure. So I'm going to say that this country, this nation, this heavily agricultural and religious nation, and right now we're shaping up quite well, because we have an economic nation, a militaristic nation, and a religious nation. And all three of those things are equal capable of holding power against each other without one being obviously in domination. You know, for example, you may not have the strongest military, but who wants to invade the breadbasket and maybe, you know, ruin everybody, like not only their own supplies but everybody's supplies?
Well, like I imagine it is, the breadbasket probably has a very strong standing military, so you could raid the breadbasket. You could go and attack the shore, get to some of the villages before the standing army can get there to stop you, but you probably can't take over the breadbasket.
There's sort of, you know, and I'm getting a sort of like almost Eastern Orthodox, like Russia sort of vibe. Like here we have potato and God. We have potato, God, and vodka.
He's west side of planet. He's very nice. I do one accent. I make island with that accent.
God, why in this world the British people are the poor and the Russian people are like the super fucking wealthy and well fed and like.
You're very fat. It's wonderful. It's finally our time. It's our time now.
Today, perfect weather, no complaints.
There's no complaints. Arr.
God, yes,
Are there a
I
lot of
like
bears on your
that.
continent?
I'm sorry, what?
Are there a lot of bears on your continent as well?
No, no bears. We exported them to other places. It's nice here.
Traveling pirate, a traveling circus by sea. One of our many
I teach
exports.
bears to be pirates.
Yuri
My
from-
character on ship piloted by bears.
uh,
Seemed like such good plan.
The
Bears
major
get
priest
hungry,
is Yuri.
not good plan. Save me.
I like it. God damn it, that makes me fucking happy.
Oh, I have a name for you as well, Dr. Wreckage.
It's not
Ooh,
the
that's-
breadbasket?
No.
You
It's
can't just name it the
Prius.
thing that it is.
It is Prius. Priaus.
Prius.
Looks like a T-Rex eating the Spanish island. It looks like the Spanish island is the pork chop, and the island above it is like a big hungry dinosaur.
That one's for you there, Henley.
Oh, thank you.
You have a lot of land there.
Yep. I'm sort of making the northern coast mountainous, which is for geography buffs at home. Towards your poles is where you have your broken up shores, your craggly rocks, your like like tiny bitty islands,
Itty
and
bitty.
towards the middle is where you have smooth edges and smooth coastlines, because the currents will wear down your continental shelf less. Blah 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 blah. Thank you, James, for eye rolling. It's very tiny, a tiny little bit of map making knowledge that I have from occasionally researching for world building purposes. And yes, we do take breaks, and right now is the top of the hour where we would take a break. So let's take a break. We've just named the nation of Prius. I'm sorry, Prius.
Prius! We are very advanced in Prius.
We have
Just
hybrid
large
car before oil.
We get 60 mile per hour on bear. It's fine.
Yes, James.
I didn't either. I'm just looking at books to like steal names from.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'm just making humor. So, we will be back in 3 to 5 minutes. Hopefully with no pressure, Prylor's Nation, and maybe also we're gonna start asking some questions about that have already been answered, but like religions, but maybe old religions, older nations, older empires, things that are maybe in the history of our world that we want, ancient pantheons and sort of etc. If there have been any historic wars between our nations. That Prylor has a nation idea, so why don't we start with there?
All right. So, someone kind of shouted in chat earlier about kind of Viking-ish, and I kind of want to go with that, kind of like Scandinavian, to where a lot of the terrain is not very. Most of the continent is like mountainous and has trees and stuff. So they're like down to the southern area of the continent would be decent for making farmland, and that's where the kind of majority of people have decided to get away from raiding and kind of try to establish themselves as like their own city and try to make a nation of themselves. But we do have people that don't want to go along with it, so there are people that stay in the unfarmable areas and still raid out. So there's a bad, I would say, stigma to the people that come from here, that like if you're seen in anyone else's place, they kind of look down at you as kind of, and keep an eye on you because they think you're gonna be a raider, or like you are a raider type of thing. But yeah, that's as much as I've gotten so much. So if you can throw some ideas my way.
Well, so we sort of had that there was a Norse raiding lineage with James's nation. And that is not something that is, mutually exclusive. As we said, his nation was formed by people who invaded. It could have even been your nation that originally invaded, much like the French and the English and the Germans and the English and all of that. The whole
it's like when I heard him building his nation, I was like, oh, I wanted some of that, darn it.
But my question would be, in the modern era, and by modern era I mean the era that we are currently existing in, not so much as necessarily the modern era, but in the modern era, what sets this nation apart? We have a nation that's the most industrious with the best navy. We have a nation that is the breadbasket and has religion. We have a nation that has gold and is Spaniards, and they're sort of luxurious and lazy. Maybe you got they have siestas and stuff. So we have merchants,
religion, fishermen,
and
maybe?
navy. What is your nation like? What is your nation? Maybe do they have one of the better land militaries? Perhaps are they particularly fierce in combat or something? Like, tell me about what they.
I was gonna go with they're fierce in combat, but like they are really good at making ships, but not ships that fight like raiding on the ocean. They're more raiding ships, like get them to the island so that their troops can raid.
They have a good marines.
Yeah.
So James's island is super populated, probably is out of forests. So perhaps your place, it sounded like it probably still has forests.
Oh yeah.
Probably big mother trucking trees with good solid timber. So perhaps instead of...
Well, the idea is that it's somewhat of a Scandinavian analog, right?
Yeah.
So perhaps James's ships are more of the iron reinforced big ships, meant for cannoning, and the big, not frigates, what are the galleys?
Yeah, galleys.
Ship of the line.
Yeah, like the man of war type ships.
Yeah.
So he's making the big mother trucking, I own the sea ships. You're making the smaller personnel transport vehicles, the fast ships. So you may not win a straight up fight against him, but who cares if you can get in, get to what you need to do, and get back,
and possibly outrun them,
get to where you're at.
So would you say that a lot of privateers buy?
I would go so far as to say that that maybe the vast majority of pirates and pirate ships are coming out of this nation because they are what pirates want. They want fast raiding vessels, like was it schooner is like the fast ship of this era. Like you're building a lot of those, like interceptors and stuff, not like 40 cannon man of wars that are designed to
it's more ships to not fight from ship to ship, but to either get onto land or jump onto the other people's ships, kind of like
pirates.
And I imagine also that your nation, so James's nation has a lot of cheap labor, a lot of labor that you can pump out a lot of ships as long as you have design, but that ship isn't custom. There's no heart to the ship. It is literally, here's a big ass ship and a lot of guns. You probably have really talented woodworkers. The ships you can get are custom, elegant vessels, that a captain would be proud to have. It could be, one of the thing, like that could be one of the things that brings wealth to your nation. Is it is a hallmark of a successful captain to have one of your guys's
A custom
handmade ships.
Yeah.
Like the greatest shipbuilder in the world is some hermit in the forests of your land.
Oh yeah, listening to the trees, putting his head
Yeah.
up to him, being like, "This one speaks to me. He
Exactly.
will be the backbone of my next
Exactly.
masterpiece." You know, like yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So, Scandinavian analog, artisans and craftsmen, incredibly skilled. I'm going to go ahead and say you probably have a military class as well, which maybe nobody else does. Like in the same way that you have artisans who build ships, you have people who go into career military, which is maybe like historic for your people, but only just starting in other places. Like people are only just starting to be like career lifelong captains and admirals and stuff in other nations, and your people have had like a storied military tradition where if you're an artisan, you go into your artisanal craft for your whole life. But if you're a soldier, if you're a marine of this nation, you've gone into being a marine your whole life, you know. So this is a great sort of balance of power between the four nations, between quantity, quality, religion, and money. I like it. Let's put it on the map, and you know, names can come later if you don't have names, but
Not right now. Yeah.
that's fine. The next thing I want to talk about, and I will be putting in NPC nations who are not of your Genesis. I'm going to especially shape out sort of the conflict, like possible conflicts, possible like border skirmishes and that sort of thing that might be desirable. Tell me about if anybody has any ideas now, and this might be separate from your nation, it might be the history of your nation, but I'm looking for some stuff that is in this world's past, culturally, religiously. Are there old religions that people don't follow anymore? Is there a dead empire that you like, in the vein of Rome, say, or the Greeks, who, you know, they came and they were hugely culturally influential and then they're gone?
Can I go as far to say I feel like the Spanish people would probably be maybe the oldest?
Like they have a very ancient culture.
Like I'm thinking a lot of like art and statues and things like that, like super old, like buildings and things like that, like very sort of like when you think like
Like you've been established. A while.
it's been there for a while, right? Like I imagine there's almost like a Mecca somewhere on this place, and it's very like you know how, I don't know what era it was, but like when the Vikings were around, how the Christians were like hella into gold and making gold like crosses and stuff like that. I imagine it's a lot like that. Like I imagine almost Christianity style religion here.
Sort of opulent religion as opposed to like humble religion.
You get to have the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, sort of like I imagine there's a lot of sort of like maybe even the militaries like formed by the religion sort of thing. Like I imagine like there's a lot of like there's a mechanic in the game for dueling, so that's kind of why I wanted sort of Spanish influence, because when I think dueling I think that like Zorro and shit like that, right? So that like I imagine there's a lot of like dueling for like you know, satisfactions and shit like that in here too, and maybe that's a part of like the law or the religion or something like that. So yeah, what do you think?
I certainly think that makes sense. Why don't you? So, opulent sort of Christianity as a base, honor dueling. What is the like? I'm getting all the trappings of this religion. What is the meat of it? Like, is there a monogod?
I would say like
is it a pantheon. Is it a monogod that survived like a really? Because you're saying your nation is very old, right?
Yeah.
Did they maybe used to have a pantheon, and then they just sort of gradually started to only worship one of the gods? Like that's like an option.
I'm thinking like maybe the religion is based on like siblings or something like that, and like a sibling rivalry, where one was painted as good and one was painted as like, whatever. Like that's what I'm imagining. Like, so two sides of the coin, that sort of bullshit. Very sort of.
Do they have the two brothers or two siblings on either side of their coins?
Yeah,
And it's like one of them is the favored brother, and it's like it's good luck to find a coin in the street that has the favored brother up,
Facing
but it's
up,
bad
yeah.
luck to find the coin with the other way.
Yeah.
With the other brother, it's bad luck to find. That sounds really cool.
Like just like basically like dualities, right? Like that's what I'm thinking a lot of.
If I could make a
Yeah,
brief
go for
note,
it. Yeah.
I'd like to go on the twins thing, like a set, because I'm drawing correlations with what you're describing as both Spain, as well as Rome. So not like Holy Roman Empire, I should say. So maybe one coin is the twin in opulent garb. He is the rich, the well-off twin, and one is a pauper, which is why you would dislike so intensely.
What's a popper? Because in England,
poor person.
Poor person.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that would give one. It feeds into your duality thing, but would also give you a reason, a religious reason, to dislike the other islands who are less well off than you, which by your very own religion would make them inferior.
Yeah, like I imagine like there's like it's a very prosperous place to live in because its citizenry. Thank you. Is very well looked after because money flows easily. That's what I'm imagining. But there's also a lot of the people up the top are very religious as well. Like that's how I'm imagining everything going. So.
All right. No, I like the sort of seeds of this religion. I really like there's two brothers. One sort of represents the poor man. One represents the rich man.
Yeah.
You idolize the rich man and the whatever arbitrary ethics and morality sort of has been applied to the rich person and sort of the I guarantee you that part of the religion is that so the poor guy, they're all thieves and beggars, and so thieves and beggars probably
idolize the other guy. And it's edgy and cool if you're an assassin or whatever to be I worship the other brother.
Well, there's always two sides of the coin, right? Just because one is less well respected from one side doesn't mean the other side is any less powerful.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why they still put the other god on the other side of the coin.
Yeah. I also like the idea that there is an honor guard or something like that here as well. Some sort of patriarchy sort of military, right? Like a military that's sort of built around just defending this place, not so much worried about the other.
Or maybe even not so much originally it was about perhaps originally defending like the king or the church or whatever, or in the place.
Yeah.
But like now it's become this just traditional and like overly
Pompous.
like ornate.
Yeah, ornate is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, like the honor guard has all this like gear that they wear that is not good to be worn in combat, but is like all of it is tradition, and this symbolizes this and that symbolizes that, and like and they're like gorgeous entities, and it's like a status symbol to be an honor guard, and maybe they are quite good fighters,
and they have giant tits. I'm sorry.
You're thinking of that other game we played, Eugene, and I can understand why, because there are similarities, but it's not that game. Stop it.
All right, so that is exactly what I wanted. We now have a religion that is not only current in Pereza, but has a very clear sort of, and this is what it probably looked like in the past. Like, these are the traditions that have built up over time. This is the way that it is now. There probably easily could have been like a pantheon besides the two brothers, and then they just slowly started to get cannibalized by like, oh, why isn't he just the same? Why doesn't he just also control this and that? And like, it seems like a great, like stuff can come from this. It's a great seed. We're not necessarily going to flush out every little detail of everything.
No, I mean, like, a lot of this would just be like, wouldn't it be great if this religion was also this during play? Like, that's kind of the beauty of doing it this way, because you could just kind of be like, ooh, that sounds cool. Let's put that in when it comes. So.
Does anybody else have any thoughts specifically in the zone of history of the world?
Like, does anyone have, like, I'm super interested, did anyone have like a super artisan or something like that? Like, was there like great art coming out of like the British place, for example? Like you know, like that sort of shit sort of
maybe, I mean,
cultures.
This is me just throwing it out and spitballing here, but maybe the continents were just one at one. Maybe they were one, and maybe there was a catastrophic whatever, and it broke the land, and the
a
sea
voodoo comet.
Yes, a voodoo comet.
That's right up there with my Nazi moon laser theory. Oh my god, a voodoo comet, and that's why there's pirates, because some people just have the voodoo in. My god, I should be a GM. God. I should be a GM, guys.
This man actually does GM games. He expects you to watch them too.
Was that a bad idea then?
No. Actually, finish the thought, because he interrupted you with this stupid, dumb joke.
I mean, whether it was, I don't know. Maybe it was everyone. Maybe it was just one giant continent that something happened, a mass earthquake, or something, or even something came out of the sky and broke the land up.
To what end? Like, what's the goal of that as being part of the history? Like, are we talking distant past, or are we talking about
past,
like ancient history?
Yeah, ancient.
I mean, if you go far enough back, it certainly was a Pangea, because that's how tectonics sort of work. But like, you mean that it was once whole, and then something happened.
Yeah.
And like, is this a Noah's Flood analog? Like, is this like an ancient religious thing that people talk about because there were people, or do you just mean geologically that this happened?
Geology. I don't know. It was just an idea.
All right. Well, all
just
right.
I mean,
like, maybe there's like a sea shanty about it or something like that. You know, like.
Interesting. We'll keep that in mind as we go forward, and maybe that'll be a crucial. Like, I'm seeing some, like, in this world, maybe the great story that every ancient religion tells is about the breaking of the land and not the flooding of the land, right? Because on our planet, like, tons of religions have a Noah's Ark analog, where there was a great flood that flooded the whole world, and maybe the sort of, in this universe, there wasn't a great flood so much as there was a great shattering of the land, a great separation of the world, and what comes from that, what are the different religions' takes on it, what are the different stories? That's something that could come up. Eugene,
Yes.
you've been silent for a while. Give us an idea of something.
Well, I mean, I was trying to let other people talk. I've been told I do the talking thing too much.
And now I'm calling you out, so it's my fault.
You are indeed. So my idea for Crius was basically, they are, as an agricultural nation, they are not monotheistic. They're polytheistic. They worship, a number of different gods that are based on, the sea and the earth, nature type gods. I think Celtic type things, or Greek.
Shamanistic.
Yeah, basically.
Kind of like, maybe not with shamans, but
no,
spirits of the land is typically referred to as shamanistic.
Yeah, more a more like a holdover of a older religion than what you would expect in the 15th century. Like, there's guns and cannons and steel. Why would you still worship
multiple gods, or the
multiple
land?
Gods and gods of the, like, there's at least arbitrarily some science going around that says this is what the world is. But they're still very much, gods of the harvest, that gods of the season, that kind of thing.
Well, it sounds like, especially with Pereza having its own religion still, it sounds like what maybe has not happened in our world, analogous to the real world. It doesn't sound like
there's a lot of culture exchange.
It does. Well, there's probably been a lot of cultural exchange, but it does not sound like there's been
a huge technology revolution that killed God, basically.
No, and no. What I'm going for is, it doesn't sound like there's been a mono religion that's come out and just converted everybody like Catholicism did. Like, all the religions of the world sort of, in the real world, condensed down into Catholicism, is
Islam,
Judaism. Like, you still get some Hinduism, some Buddhism, some, there's some holdover, but like, basically there was large conversion wars, and we basically drew the lines at one point a little while ago, and everything else went away. It sounds like, without that influence, I'm sure there would still be many, like, pantheonic religions around, right? It was sort of the burning of the heretics that got rid of paganism, and it sounds like maybe this world, for whatever reason, never experienced that at all.
Well, the thing I like about James's idea about the world being more of a Pangea at some point and then splitting, is that even with trade, even with as much sea trade as we're having, one of the major things that stopped land wars from succeeding was the ability to take your troops across the ocean and go conquer things effectively. Now, Britain would go in boats, very strong navy, go to places, put flags, say we own you, and they were generally so technologically advanced to the places that they were landing, and their navy was so good that they could just get away with that shit. But now imagine you're all in one place, you're all kind of developing, you're in this more ritualistic type religion, and suddenly, thousands of years ago from where we are now, the world splits, and nations and people who never needed boats before now are suddenly on islands. So they've got to figure out how to make boats, which is why I like the concept of Prylor's Island being very good at making boats, because where their location is probably would have put them on the coast at some point when this thing split, which would make sense that they would have developed boats faster. Same things with James. Any place where they would have had groups of people where they already made boats, that would have developed faster over the course of time, whereas a nation like mine that was probably interior, which is why it is a very large landmass, most likely would not have had boats, would have had agriculture. So that would have stunted the ability for people to pick up, because when you win a war and you kill everybody that's there, you plant your religion. And that's what happened with a lot of the monotheistic religions, is they showed up with a bigger army and said, you're following our ways now, damn it, or we're going to stab you in the face.
Well, the biggest thing that happened was that the mono religions became the religion of the empire of two large empires, like the
Roman Empire
and the Persian Empire, sort of like the various forms that the Persian Empire has taken over the world. Eventually, the Ottomans would be the ones to like really spread Islam. So like, it sounds like a shattered world is not conducive to large empires, and now that sailing technology is catching up, it's becoming a colonial world. And maybe one of the big conflicts that is now happening, now that sailing technology is where it's at, is suddenly there's the capacity for this like cultural appropriation, this cultural dominance. And maybe there is a force in the world that is beginning that. Maybe in the clash of nations and empires and burgeoning colonies, there is maybe a nation whose sole goal is like cultural conversion.
Oh, he's going for that cultural win. He's going to make the space station.
You just said two different things, Dave. Good job. You build a space station in the science victory, not the culture victory.
Look, man, I haven't played in a long time. Don't make me come after you. All right, I will. I know where you live, so it's fine.
You don't, actually.
Look, America. It's not a very big country, okay? I can find you.
Good luck. Or should I say, good luck. Click. Taken reference? No?
No, I got it. I just
got it.
Okay. Yeah, well, didn't fluff my ego, okay? I need it.
It was an amazing reference, sir, and
I didn't get the reference. What was the reference?
It's a movie called Taken, starring Liam Neeson.
You should have taken that reference and put it in the bin. Boom!
This show has given me a particular set of skills. And it's dick and fart jokes.
Oh,
right, so again, we've made great progress here. We haven't slowed down once all night. A key difference in this world versus the real world, besides geography, is because of the geography, there was no like world-spanning major empire that like mono-converted culture. And so the big civilized nations of the world are still capable of these independent religions.
It could still be happening off screen though. I mean, do you know what I mean? Off the map, somewhere else, on the other side of the world, in like the Asia-y type lands.
Yeah, maybe the Asia analog is less broken up. Maybe they have a mono culture, mono religion over there. Actually, that's a good question, because during this era that we're trying
where did you put Prylor's Island, by the way? Or have you not drawn that yet?
I have drawn it. It's above Prios.
We're all on the right part of the screen.
So far, yeah.
It's above Prios?
Yep.
Oh, you mean that...
connected, right?
Oh, it's connected. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It sounded like they were coastal peoples. They also sounded Scandinavian, so they would be connected to the mainland, despite being coastal. So, I mean, I've just sort of done a thing.
Is there like a giant
mountain
in the past? Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a mountain range, that sort of thing. These are also sort of generalizations. Roll20 is.
Can I put something forward for my
always
land that I came up with? I've just because it's been invaded over the years and it's become like a hodgepodge of basically all the races have mixed and become just one nation. Maybe they've abolished the main de facto religion that most people follow, and maybe
Well, it sounds like there isn't one. Is the big thing.
Well, if there is, the queen because I said so the queen is the head of state and she's the head of the church and she is the church. So they're perhaps maybe they're forced to, even though she's not a god at all in most people at all, but she sort of is treated like a god.
Oh, are you saying that it's a religion of state, sort of like
A North Korea situation. I'm sorry.
Hail, mighty leader!
like there
Long
is no,
live the queen.
there is no gods, just kings. Like right, they are a matriarchy, but like maybe it's not expressly that you are supposed to worship the queen, just that religion is banned, and that in its place there is a lot of like idolization of the dictatorship, sort of. Is that sort of what you're suggesting, or
yeah, I mean, yeah. In that sense, I mean, not every, especially like the real lower class, they probably have to like do it, but maybe they don't believe. Do you know what I mean?
So you're saying that you want the state to say that the queen is the god, like
Yes.
expressly, like the queen is almost like a pharaoh, like the living god on earth. And ooh, that's okay. That's pretty heavy, as Doc Brown might say.
I mean, it could also be like Imperial Japan, where the emperor was a living god, but they all kind of accepted that he lived, he died, and then the next person took over. You know, without the.
What makes her so otherworldly that she is looked upon as a religious figure? Like, is it just like hearsay, or is?
Well, I mean, it sounds like we're going for the sort of like Eugene has said, the sort of, in the past there have been many nations in which the leader is the living god, just by being the leader, and like the monarchy and the lineage is said to be, you know, of holy blood, like of godly blood.
It's an abuse of power, I guess. It would actually be.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're painting a very like, whereas, because we've compared your nation to Britain, whereas Britain in this era in our world was fairly democratic and free, all things considered. Like, you know, it had a parliament, it had some amount of representation. We're talking about the exact opposite, and this is a nation of no freedoms. The lower classes are basically slaves. The monarchy is deified, and
well, the Civil War happened in the 17th century. Historically, when the king lost all his power,
right,
and then Parliament was put in place. I mean, that could be where the country is going towards. Maybe, I mean, for reference, maybe there is displeasure with the ruling classes, and I mean, it could even be almost like, if it does happen, it could almost be like the French Revolution, where they just behead any noble blood at all, just to, you know.
They invent a better way of killing because there's so many of the fuckers to kill. Yeah. This version of the guillotine gets made over there. Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm just spitballing it, but you know, it's just,
no,
it's not a very.
You're painting a very oppressive nation, like not
It's oppressive if you're poor. If you've got money, you're generally all right.
It's oppressive if you're poor.
What else is new? Like, you know.
Tell me something I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's generally how it goes, right?
Okay.
Wait, money grants advantage in this life? Damn it!
And all lives, apparently. So, all right, interesting. So, Prylor.
Yo.
We've
I just
established
realized
that-
there's 3 Davids in this fucking chat in this game. That's oppressive. That's where the oppression comes from.
Ryler, where we've established the religious beliefs of each nation. We've established that there isn't a mono religion that's taken over. So, what do your people believe? They share a continent with Eugene people. You know, maybe there hasn't been a lot of cross-cultural stuff because there's a mountain range. Like your people are the artisans. They're incredibly skilled and devoted. Does that mean they have a dedicated religious caste? And what do they do? Like, what is the beliefs of your people?
Well, I'd say that okay, so we have like a pantheon of gods, and
Pantheon. Okay.
There was like one god that we used to follow a lot more, which would kind of like be one of combat and war and taking what you want and not caring. We're kind of fading away from that and kind of starting to follow another god from the pantheon that would be more of a, like you said, artisan and more about like love and stuff like that. That's more like a gentler.
So you've kept the same pantheon.
Yes.
But who's been the focus of the pantheon?
Like was the top
is shift.
Exactly.
I'm imagining like one of the sea, one of the land, one of war, and one of vitality. Like
all that. Like
we get like specifics can
it
come
could
later.
be even a goddess or something. That we're switching more to a goddess instead of
liking these broad
man of war.
strokes. It's like maybe there's been relative peace, like not. There hasn't been open war for so long that your people have been making more money and more profit from just being artisans, and this trade war environment, right, where the like the resources of the world, now that sailing has opened up, it's like that's what everybody's fighting over, not so much literally invading each other. They don't come to your people for mercenary work anymore. They come to your people for, give me this ship.
We don't need to lose people to get what we want anymore. We can just trade.
Do you have like a religion that specifically blesses new ships as they leave? Like, is that a thing that maybe that would give them like a sailor would want a blessed ship because of whatever reason?
I mean, I imagine.
Work that in,
I imagine that with their work, we've discussed how people would commission his people for ships when they get really well off.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that maybe there's a very lucrative business in blessing ships for whatever god the commissioner believes in, right? Like maybe you have the whole pantheon of your people, but there are people from all over who can make work being a priest of such and such thing that just hangs out in your shipyards to bless the ships of the people who believe in that god.
Interesting.
An interesting thought. All right, so you have a pantheon, and things have started to shift from a war god to the artisanal god, or thereabouts. We're coming up at the top of the hour again. This is a little bit early, but since I'm about to suggest a big segue in what we're discussing, I think now is a good time to take our 3 to 5 minute break and come back. And when we come back, we're going to ask a very important part of piratry in the real world was the discovery of the new world. So we're going to ask if there's a new world and what new resources or islands or discoveries have opened up that create the atmosphere for piratry. So, Dave, throw us the talked about some of the islands. There's always room for more islands. We've talked about religion. And now it's time to talk about one of the important parts of piracy, which is sort of the untamed sea, and why so many resources and things are out there for pirates to steal. The reason why that occurred in the real world is because we found the new world, and everybody wanted a piece of it, which meant colonies and trade lanes, bread baskets, and the slave trades, and all sorts of things that pirates could sink their weaselly black teeth into.
Who you be calling a weasel?
That'd be you, Captain Weasel.
Say, why do I need to go to a breadbasket over there? I mean, I got one right below me that I can raid.
Right, but it wasn't just the bread, like the bread basket.
Yeah, I know, I'm kidding.
It was
Yeah.
gold and silver and manpower and secret El Dorados that turned out to never exist, and tobacco farms and all sorts of things that the great economy of basically 300 years of Earth's history was based around, and also the 300 years in which piracy flourished.
I was gonna say I would love to see something like drugs, like some kind of plant that is.
Ooh,
sought
that
after
is
because
like
You mean like a tropical island with random mushrooms? And
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
cannibalism?
Oh no.
Stop coming back to that island, Eugene. You can't just put everything on that island. What else?
All I put was mushrooms. That was all I put on that
Chat
island.
had a really, really good idea during the break. What if it's some sort of like creatures, like livestock, and stuff like that?
Like the giant turtle.
Or like
Are
cattle
Are you
or
talking
something.
about like that you eat and then you hallucinate, or like?
No. Like I'm talking
not drug cows, just cows.
just cows. Like literally, just like sheep
What if we
and
take the
stuff like
idea
that.
about
Bat
drugs
guano.
and the idea about the animal and put them together?
Exactly.
Now there's a drug animal.
or
Snake
oxen
venom.
or horses.
I like the
Some
idea
sort
that we
of-
didn't have like literally cows or horses or any sort of like large animal that we could kill, like farming animals. Like can you
Some
imagine
sort of
that shit?
Beasts of burden.
Yeah.
Some sort of drug mule, if you will.
Oh, fuck off.
Anyway, that's a thought. So okay, but let's wheel it one question back and answer the more important question: is there a new world?
My
Equivalent to, yes, I would say.
You
I actually feel differently. I don't feel with the setup that we have in the world we've built that there's an actual requirement for there to be a new world to spur piracy. I think each of our nations has a good enough reason to be going out to sea to look for something that its nation is missing. The industry nation needs space. It needs resources. It's going to be using its military to go out and do that. We've got 4 nations that are essentially in a Cold War and on the brink of cultural or just out and out actual war. But before any war, you have to build up your base. You have to expand. You have to be prepared to do so. So you would see a lot of people going out to perhaps just this whole slew of unexplored islands on the sea that used to be part of this territory, that we've got stories of, oh yeah, there used to be a nation here that's no longer here. I bet you on one of these islands is,
So what you're saying is there's plenty of unexplored islands, but your opinion is that there doesn't need to be a new continent.
Well, what about if it's less of a new continent and more of a new threat? Like maybe
Cannibals.
not
I like this man.
not so much cannibals, but like let's think about like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? What if there was like a scourge of undead or something like that?
No, absolutely not. That's too high fantasy.
Too high fantasy? Okay.
Yeah, like the undead army. No, that suddenly takes away the entire vibe.
What? No, not so much undead army, but like Aztecs.
What about it not being a new world, but bits that like, if we're going with the whole like that it was once a giant landmass and it broke apart. Maybe it's a bit. Maybe there's a large chunk of it that everyone's forgotten about, and it's all, you know, most people thought it was destroyed or no longer existed, and it's really hard to get there. Maybe it's just really bad design in the sea or whatever, but maybe it's just really hard to get to. And it's not new. It's not new. It's old. Maybe there's an maybe there's an ancient civilization on there that is a threat to everyone.
Or some sort of power vacuum, like an old like a distant land that we've known about is suddenly up for grabs where it wasn't before. There was an empire and it has disappeared.
And they just suddenly disappeared somehow?
Well, suddenly disappeared, or even just are no longer an empire. So suddenly the claim is there to be staked, right? Like there's no longer both are possible. They all could have disappeared. Actually, 7th Sea has that in it, that there was a nation that disappeared, sort of like a la Atlantis, and like people know about those things and they're looking for that. But these are all possibilities. We've heard quite a lot of possibilities. I guess what is it we want?
Do you need a new world for your storytelling purposes?
I need a new era of piracy, right? Like, so why is there a new era of pirate? Like,
what about, rather than going, oh, we must have this, we must have that, what about we just go, yeah, all of it, and throw it all in at different locations?
All right, so mini unexplored islands.
I really like that idea.
Well, obviously, but like, there will always,
because then you have
islands.
then you have far more options to pick from. Do you know what I mean? So we
and
could have,
also
like,
a place where empire has fallen and people are out for that, and also a new place with new animals and new plants and new drugs. Like those are the 3 ideas that we've floated. So we also
floated the idea that there is a nation that is a big threat as well. Maybe something that hadn't been encountered in a long time, and it's suddenly come back on the horizon.
So some sort of like...
Well, you had mentioned it earlier. Maybe the Asia
analog,
or maybe even the other part of the continent that we broke off from.
Like resurfacing, like an entire island just coming out of the water. Like that'd be fucking sweet. I like that.
A completely monotheistic, very militaristic nation that has essentially a edict from their leadership to go and make all nations us, a kind of Borg type entity thing.
Religious or militaristic?
Pax Romana on the sea.
And maybe that's why there's a break in the war.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend, sort of thing.
Interesting.
Well, but even then, I can see, the 4 nations that we've developed, even if there's a common threat.
Oh, they're still trying to get one up on each other. Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah. I mean, you wouldn't have alliances. It wouldn't be like the 4 of us will work together against this threat. I bet you I could turn this threat against them and profit from it somehow. Or this threat doesn't really affect me. Because think about how our 4 nations would react. Mine probably would. I don't have ships. What am I going to care about another nation? And I'm in the middle of the other things. I know that they'll take the other ones down before they'll get to me. And everybody needs a breadbasket. They won't harm me any more than the other 3 fuckers will.
So
Henley's culture is super rich and opulent and assumes that they can buy their way out of anything. James's has a queen that's basically dear leader, and has giant military, they assume that they can fight anything off.
So this new guy, does it need to be like I imagine like some sort of religious fervor, like human sacrifices, right? Like I like the idea that this new place, and I said it earlier, but like an Aztec analog, but like more modern, where they still highly believe in human sacrifice. Like,
But don't they say that if? Oh, am I wrong? Is it the Aztecs that if they kept going, they would have been way advanced than we were?
so
Was that
No,
rubbish?
so
Or was that no? That's the Dark Ages. Sorry.
let me take a moment to speak about the Aztecs and what inevitably happened to them. The Aztecs, and to some extent the Mayans, from my personal hobbyist understanding of history, they became too religiously fervent, and towards the fall of their empires, for example, in Aztec culture, human sacrifice was a thing that occurred. And then towards the end of its empire, it was like, let's have 10 sacrifices a day. Like, it went from something you do once in a while to, as the empire fell because of diseases introduced by Europeans, as the empire fell to disease and war and insurrection, they became more and more fervent. And what I've heard is that, like, at the point that
from my friends who were there,
from what I've heard from people who were there at the time, it fell. It probably couldn't have stood up to the Spanish conquistadors overall over the long term, but it actually did fall to like a religious extremism. They went too far. They were sacrificing too many people. And
as things got worse, they kept sacrificing to make them better. But the worse they got, the more they sacrificed.
Then they had less people, and
the worse it got. Big spiral.
Which is why they're looking for new people.
The more she drank, the more she shat. The more she shat, the more she drank.
And then she died.
That's an actual line in Game of Thrones that everybody, the big
dysentery.
Yeah. He writes in depth about someone having dysentery. It's kind of creepy, but also, I guess, true to life.
And where fetishes are born. So, yeah.
Die party, where fetishes are born. So I'm hearing that we maybe want a new threat who wasn't a threat. We want a vacuum, and we want many, many unexplored islands.
Prylor.
What
do you want? You've been
drugs. I want the drugs, man. I kind of was thinking, before he said that why not all the options, and that's what I was kind of thinking. All the options sounded good to me. So.
I really like the idea that this is sort of like, if we imagine this map, right? We've got this map here. Imagine everything to the left of it is just like the vast, unexplained everything. And this entire little region here, right, is sort of like maybe part of what's happening is, we're getting ships coming from the left or the west of the oceans, and it's just like, what's going on over there? Why is there ships coming from over there? More importantly, how are they making it that far across the big ocean? Because I imagine like this little span of islands here, like that's probably the furthest we could possibly travel via ship, to a certain degree.
I was going to say, I like the concept of this little sea island, Prylor's first island. The reason why it was used to drop off the unwanteds, the cast-offs, is that was the furthest island. That, in many cultures, was essentially the end of the world. Beyond that, there was nothing else. But now, as time has advanced and technology has improved and ships have gotten better, ships have come from other places, and now we know, okay, we were a bit wrong about that. Maybe that wasn't the end of the world after all.
Interesting thoughts. All right, I have just about everything that I would want to take at this point and go off and do my work over the next week and a half.
Yeah.
To do the great work of brewing and concocting and filling in some of these gaps, making some things work that maybe don't.
Well, there's another thing that we need to talk about. Specifically character creation with this stuff. There needs to, like, one of the things you can do in this game is you can go to what's called a dueling school. Now, I've sort of made room for it within my whatever character specific space, that there is dueling schools within my territory. Does anyone else have anything like that? Now, dueling could be like swordsmanship or anything like that, but it's specifically like how you get combat maneuvers and stuff like that. And it is tied to your nation, right? It is a very nation-specific sort of thing in the mechanics.
In the actual 7C book, because they are a continent, like it says these schools are popular in XYZ nation, but you can get to them no matter where you're from, right? It doesn't say you can't take this schooling if you're not from this place.
There is actually bonus styles for nations. So realistically speaking,
this is something we will actually have to grapple with in the character creation.
Or you can just take one and just apply it to your nation, though. Like, we don't have to change the mechanics of the dueling, but like,
we will be doing that during character creation. So also, like, a lot of the nation-based bonuses.
Yeah.
That, like, at character creation, those are things that will be like, well, which set of bonuses do you think applies to your nation, etc. So that'll be the nitty-gritty of the character creation episode. I do want to leave a space here, or I do want to come back to, is there anything else in the world without a prompt?
Ooh, sea monsters.
Right. So you say you want are you saying you want sea monsters to be real?
Yes.
Or you want them to be something that people know about or are just superstitious about, and they are real but people don't have proof of them, or like, are they a known entity?
I think the people, like sailors, probably know about them. I think a lot of everyone else doesn't believe them, right?
So what are we talking about with sea monsters? Are we talking like massive krakens, or like sirens, kind of smaller things, or both?
All of it.
Oh, there's going to be tons of monsters.
All of it.
Okay, all of it.
I like the concept of every ship essentially having a sailor on it who, you know, their
tall tales
friend or their cousin was attacked by a kraken or saw a harpy. Like, it is well known and accepted that these things exist, but you'd be hard pressed to find someone who they themselves has seen them.
I see what you're saying. Now, if we're going to ask the question of there are sea monsters, I think the question isn't, are there sea monsters? Yes, no. I think it's more, what sorts of things do we want as individual players that maybe aren't classical sea monsters? Like the Kraken is the classic one. What sort of things does this world have that are unique to it, maybe in the sea monster realm, that you would like to see because you haven't seen that in previous settings?
I like the idea that there is a like an underwater dragon. Something that like specifically preys on like creating a hoard of gold.
Oh, something that is like a collector and maybe also like reptilian.
Yeah. Or something like that, like
dinosaur-like.
who literally like
crab.
preys on, like, you know, ships, and maybe that's like a tall tale from, you know, Pereza, almost, you know, because of all the gold and stuff like that. Like that's why we don't go too far with our burdens, because you know the whatchamacallit will come out and grab
They
you.
can smell the gold.
Smell the gold, yeah.
It just wants to be shiny.
I see the joke that you're telling, Eugene. I haven't seen the movie, but I do actually. That's not the joke.
No, it's not the joke. I'm an adult.
In Disney's latest smash hit,
Moana.
Moana, the main villain is a giant crab that just wants to be shiny.
Oh, wait, that's hardly a fucking... Okay.
He's very clearly a sea monster.
Yeah, I get it, but it's not the villain.
He has a gold.
Well, I haven't seen
He had a span of 10 minutes on screen.
I mean, in fairness,
Glorious
so
10
did
minutes.
all of the other villains in that film.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Right.
The Rock was the true villain.
The Rock was the true villain. Good old
Anyway.
Dwayne Johnson. Yeah.
Now, of course, so I'm hearing like an undersea dragon that hoards gold.
Yeah,
and
so
is
there's
sort
a bunch of like let me put some ideas in your mind.
particularly a superstition of Pereza.
Yeah. There's actually like monstrous qualities things can have in this book. Like
I'm aware of them.
Yeah, like let me just run off a few to give everyone some like brain juice. Winged, swift, venomous, unliving, shapeshifting, shadowy, tentacled, relentless, teleporting, regenerating, powerful, nocturnal, chichenous, aquatic, fearsome, elemental, things like that. Like these are like actual qualities that you can use to make monsters in the game. So
Basically, on the GM side,
Yeah.
I don't give villains or creatures like specific stats. I don't give them an XYZ brawl stat. I give them traits. I think it's intended to cut down on the work that the GM does.
Yeah.
So I give a certain villain or monster XYZ traits, and that means they can do XYZ.
I don't know what it is, but I do have an idea of some sort of sea monster.
Yeah.
Yet again, I'm only spitballing because So there's something out there, and it uses wrecked ships as a lure to draw in the greedy traveler.
Interesting. So does it wreck ships and then use wrecked ships to draw in wrecked ships?
Yes.
All right. So it's some sort of
Anglerfish.
yeah, like an evil.
that's what I was thinking. I just couldn't think of the name of the fish. So.
It's an anglerfish. That's the one you're looking for. It's got the little dingly bob with the
Yeah, the little
the
whatchamacallit.
giant mouthful.
It's just, I mean, it's got to catch all the boats, you see.
Right. Well, and it's that contributes to the superstition we established at the top of sailors in our world are superstitious and don't rescue other sailors for various reasons. And one of those reasons could be, oh, have you heard about the monster that, if you try and save a ship that is sinking, it's actually just the lure of this terrible, sea maw or whatever. I think that fits perfectly.
Yeah, I like the concept of a sea monster that essentially will attack attack a fleet of ships and knock one, disable one, and as other ships come to help it, we'll just like eat them.
I mean, I was thinking more likely it has like wrecks on top or whatever, and it
Like a
comes
turtle?
after the service,
Interesting.
whatever it is, whatever it could possibly
So
be.
like the
maybe
wreck
it's-
is attached to it.
The important thing is that you've created an idea seed, and I will take that and I will turn it into something. And now we will see. It.
But the seed I'd definitely I'd like to see an actual like island made out of like wrecked ships with people living on it.
Ooh, that's another idea. Shipwreck Island, it might be called.
The trash barge.
Shipwreck Island. It's on the town of Shipwreck. In Shipwreck Cove. But yeah, no, that's all right. Those are two ideas that we will put into the bin.
Wrong turn of phrase, but sure.
Into the
Right
bin.
into the bin.
Throw it in the trash. Whee!
No, see,
Yes, guys, right into the bin.
bin does not mean the garbage in American.
It does for me though.
Yeah, it
I
does.
know.
It
I'm
does
sorry.
for literally
Yeah.
everyone else.
Makes me think of garbage.
Fuck you, James.
I'm sorry.
Wonderful ideas, James. You just keep throwing them. Giving them to me.
Yeah.
Bin is a thing that we use for storage in America. So I was a
storing
storage
rubbish,
bin.
and then you empty it out when
Yeah,
it's
you,
full.
you,
Into
that's
the
where you
bigger
store
bin.
your trash in the
It's
bin.
a storage bin. It's a storage bin. Oh, that's what we. That's the only time we use the word bin in America is to store things. Anyway, I'll dig myself out of this hole. Is there anything else that people wanted in to say now? And I do want to point out, I'm not going to put a moratorium on world building, like as soon as this episode shuts off. You guys are more than welcome to continue to send me messages over the next week if you have ideas. I know that you're busy streamers though, and also some of you have real day jobs. And I made an episode about world building because some of you may not say anything else until game day, and that's fine too. But while we're on air and while we're going back and forth with each other's ideas, is there anything else anybody wanted to say? Oh, I had this idea, I had that idea.
I mean, a lot of it is like, things that we could probably come up with in the moment, like I'm thinking tall tales and shanties and that sort of stuff would probably be stuff that we would, fill in the moment when it comes up and stuff like that.
To some extent, I said I wouldn't put a moratorium on world building after this episode, but I will put a moratorium on world building after we start playing, because after that I will be dealing with a world that I will have finished.
Really? Oh, that's a bit of because it'd be cool to have like blanks around so that we can
there will be
put
plenty
stuff in.
There will be plenty of stuff, but at a certain point, you will become players and I will become the GM. And at a certain point, it's like, oh, you know what we need? We need an island filled with
naked women.
Right. So we're still world building, right? So there's an island filled with naked women, and it just happens to be exactly what we need right now to solve the problem. So I'm certainly always going to be open to, and there will always be blanks to put ideas into, but this is the moment when we are. Oh, and also your characters you will always have full control over, and whatever you want to do with them, and whatever goals you want to achieve. There's going to be the introduction of curses and magic and trinkets and all these things that we haven't. Yeah, trinkets and baubles. There will be a lot of room for input. But this is the point for the major strokes, right? 3 weeks from now, when we've already started, is a bad time to be like, I would like there to be a China analog that's threatening everybody. Well, that's a little late.
We already said that though, didn't we?
That was my.
He was using it as an example. I think.
Right.
I mean, I'd definitely like an Africa.
That's basically Prius, isn't it?
I don't know. That's more Spain though, isn't it?
It's more Spain. So when you say I would like an Africa, what do you want? What do you mean? You want an?
I don't know how
a place for your people to oppress the local populace, and
well, it'd be all the nations oppressing, wouldn't it? Because that's how
a nation that is oppressed is and exploited. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So is that what you're going for? Well, that's definitely possible. A nation that has been oppressed by our sort of European analog nations here, exploited by everybody.
Except for the French.
I mean, what's your opinion about slaves and stuff? I mean, not your personal, but the game.
Let's get political real quick. Real talk for a moment.
Well, I mean, but a lot of games skirt over it because it's such a touchy subject.
This is that era, and for one of the things that I wanted to one of the things that we've started to set up.
And it comes into piracy a lot, right? Slaves turning to piracy is
that's a big deal. So it's part of the era in the real world, and you've already established that your populace is very akin to slaves. So, I don't think the idea of slavery is going to be an untouchable subject, and I think it probably will come up. It sounds like the four nations that you guys hail from, while being technologically advanced and culturally distinct, are, you have said that there isn't, like, people are going for colonies, people are going for more resources, maybe there's an external threat. It doesn't sound like there's that your people would necessarily be like involved in, I guess, what I would call like the East India Trading Company analog, if that exists. Like, it doesn't sound like your people are like, it sounds like we're discussing a burgeoning.
I mean, the East India. I mean, if there is the equivalent of the East India Trading Company in this world, it's already been controlled by the equivalent of the English nation. It's already government controlled. Because that's what happened to it in the end. It just got rolled into the government. The government took over it after its many failures.
If we're looking at nations that would be probably vested in the slave trade, Henley's nation, somebody's got to work the gold mines, and it sure as shit ain't going to be the people who matter in that nation. And you would have, a portion of Prylor's nation that still goes out and raids that would probably be willing to sell slaves. James, my nation probably gets raided by Prylors, and the people who get taken, are either taken back to his nation to work for them, doing the onerous, going and cutting the timber and stuff like that, or being sold to Henley's nation, or, being taken to James's nation, because even though the poor there are basically slaves, that doesn't mean they don't want more labor, though his nation is highly popularized. So it could be possible that his nation is even selling some of his people.
How do we feel about like Inuits as like the slave analogy in this world, where like they're like the island would be located below Pereza, sort of thing, and
what would be sort of like sub-Antarctic is what you're saying?
Yeah,
like,
almost. And like if we were to like put it on the map, for example, it would be down here somewhere, because let me just ping it like down here, I guess, because it also leads credence that pirates would run the gambit of trying to capture those slave traders before they get there, so that they can bolster their own ranks and stuff. Like, like it makes some sort of sense that the pirates would be interested in like giving them the option to turn into pirates, right? Like, I mean, if we're going for
privateers are not looking for unskilled men; they're looking for sailors and fighters and etc. So, it's more likely if you've got a slave trade going on, which is totally cool. No, it's not totally cool in the ethical sense. It's just a
holy crap, Wreckage.
It's an interesting.
You can't just say the slave trade is totally cool, man.
All right, can someone make a quote for that in the channel, please? Like that's what we need. We need that. That
anyway,
needs to happen.
If you have a slave trade and you want pirates to be targeting it, the one they're targeting is the ship going there with the money to buy slaves.
Yeah,
that's the ship they're targeting. Like yes, a lot of slaves might turn to piracy, but pirates aren't like, oh man, what we're missing? Like 30 bodies. Like we just need 30 bodies to scrub the deck, and we would be able to take on such bigger prey. Like, privateer crews are the people that sort of, they will conglomerate around a ship, and they will be from many places.
Well,
but
I mean, like, what about like if someone gets into the slave trade and then they get freed by pirates? Where are they gonna go? Are they're probably gonna go to that new island, or Freeman Island, whatever the fuck we ended up calling it, because that's the free state, right? Like, that's where people go to be not oppressed or whatever.
We have very essentially, without intentionally doing it, created from Pirates of the Caribbean 3 Shipwreck Island, which is an incredibly defensible island where the free peoples of the world are gathering under no law or government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you created the actual drawing outline of it, I was like, that looks exactly like it would be from Shipwreck Island or whatever from the movie.
Yeah,
I mean, the game is called Dead Man's Crest, and Wreckage was like, man,
Yeah.
such a good name. I was like, dude, that's one letter away from fucking the first title of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that original.
no, it
Very
is.
original. It's
I was
one
when
letter
I
original.
first did, I was like, man, that's a good. It sounds familiar.
No. It's
I actually read it as Dead Man's Chest the first like 5 times I read it, and then I was like, oh, it's not.
well, and also
Come at me, Disney. No, actually, don't. Please don't. You stay
but
away from me, Disney.
also, this name will become very apparent once we start the show. It is a very great name for the narrative that we will be dealing with. It'll make sense. Don't worry about it.
Somebody made a clip of it. How wonderful.
Thank
Aw.
you, that person. Because with the clip, there'll be context, and I won't be able to, like, it won't be as bad as if you just quoted me in the bot that's saying.
I don't know. They could probably edit it to where you just said that part, though.
That's what crates are all about, though, isn't it? Taking things out of complete context.
All right, Wreckage. We have gone down some rails here.
Sure.
What else do you need from us?
I think I've gotten everything that I need, especially also I've gotten a good sense of what you guys want.
I
Cannibal.
want everything.
I'm going to be filling in a lot of blanks. I'm going to be,
It's
like,
got
for
space.
example, a lot of we have a pantheon ... has been done. So I'm going to fill that
So-
pantheon with bodies. I will keep you guys abreast. I'll keep you guys abreast of the things that I do as I do them. And then at the start of the next episode at character creation, I will give a brief. This is the world that we are in now, and it is completed, and there's still plenty of room for things. But this is the world that we're in now. I don't think there's any other question that I expressly need to ask. We've asked all of the specifics. We have 2 names of nations not yet named, but they don't need to be named for my purposes yet. You can take your time and name them eventually.
As long as I start with peace.
They don't have to start with
Are you gonna take control of the Freeman thing and name that yourself?
Yeah, it might just be
Okay.
the Association of Free Peoples, like it was like, or maybe it'll be called fucking Buccaneers Butthole for all we care. Like it'll be.
Is it,
That'll
So I
stick.
could-
Who's ready for a rough ride?
so I could call my. So if it needs to be a P, I could call it Pea Soup Island, yeah, because of all the fuck.
No, not a P. You were gonna actually name yours the Emerald Isles, or do you maybe still want to do that, or was that?
Yeah, and I was thinking, I'm thinking about calling it the Emerald Isles just for the
Those are the
irony
islands.
of the fact.
Does the
the
nation have a different name?
The capital. I was thinking about the city because it is. Is it? I mean, it's just one giant city, isn't it?
Well,
even
I
thinking-
think they probably have more than one city, but they're all very densely populated.
Oh, they have suburbs. Come on.
Yeah. Like
suburbs of Emerald Isles.
there's no way they only have one city. They would have to have a couple.
Boroughs? Do you mean boroughs?
Yeah, the suburbs, barrows.
I was thinking about it was either I either had like I think it was Iron Watch or Steel Watch or something. The actual capital itself.
All right. Well, all right. So these are all things that you can mull over, brew in your own time. Anything you guys tell me before the next episode, which will be next week, will be able to make it in for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And then after that, it probably still will make it in. But I might at that point be like, actually, I've done a thing and you can't, like, I can't do that because I've done another thing and that fills that gap and there's just not room for it.
Sure. It's also worth pointing out the Patreon is going to go up after this episode. I'll make sure of that. Wreckage, stick around afterwards, and we'll talk about what you actually want to see on the questionnaire that gets sent to the Patreonuses, so that you can
we
come
actually
up
probably
with
have a couple of questions to talk about off air with everybody for a second here. It looks like.
Yeah. So if you guys, just a reminder, after this episode is done, the moment that it goes up on YouTube, which won't take long, then we'll open up the Patreon submissions for nations, islands, themes. Maybe even if Wreckage is feeling down, monsters or something like that, sea monsters, or like the idea, like the not so much it existing, but more just like the rumor or something like that. Yeah, those sorts of things we're gonna open up for the Patreons to get in and do some stuff. Starting at probably the $15 tier is when we're gonna have like the really juicy stuff. But at the $5 tier, we'll probably have some stuff as well, like rumors, speculation, that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, there'll definitely be room for, like, even at the lowest tier to be like, I would like there to be a superstition about the color red, and maybe, most people don't have that superstition, but maybe we'll encounter somebody eventually who does.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the main thing that I would
Patreon.
The main thing that I would emphasize at this point is that there are no guarantees that your thing actually gets in.
Yeah, except for maybe the higher tiers. We'll see.
We can't always say yes to everything, especially if you're like, I want an island of people who are penises.
Yeah, within reason. I mean, your idea will probably, like, the questionnaire that we'll give you won't be like right exactly what you want to see. It'll be like, give us an idea of the theme or something you want to see in the game, because when it comes down to it, this is a shared experience between a couple of people. And the Patreon submissions are mostly just going to be like extras and dippings and flavors for the world to sort of exist in. Adding a whole new nation, for example, is possible, but it would probably be considerably smaller than the ones that we already added. They won't be pivotal, I guess, would be the most part. So, we'll know more about it after the show, because we'll actually be able to put the the questionnaires together. But I think this is probably a good spot to end the episode. Let's do some shoutouts. Starting with the Jonas. Put on your mask. Do it for me.
Has he got a mask?
He's got a mask?
Put on the mask. Put it on.
I haven't seen a mask.
God, it's frightening.
Just look at your face when you're doing this. Yes. Okay, now do your outros wearing it.
What?
Hi, I'm Eugene. You can find me at twitch.tv/Eugene.
And also FurryCon.
And also FurryCon. But you gotta find me because I generally like to be on like the bottom of the stack, so get there early.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Hey, you give me a prompt, I'm gonna follow it.
This is why I love working with you. This man is a genius.
Man is a genius.
I'm excited to be on another Die Party show. I was a little bit panicking there when Henley was like, and now for the end of the show. I mean, this show. Because, I keep joining your shows and then they keep ending.
Look, we end them before they get to the point where it's like, well, I guess we should just stop playing. Like you know what I mean? Like,
No. I have enjoyed every show I've been on, which is why it is sad for me to see them end. I enjoy the cast and crews that you put together. I'm excited to work with you and Wreckage again, and with James and Prylor for the first time. I think it's going to be a hoot and or a holler. I
thought you were going to go with Nanny there, but okay.
Yeah, well, James Preller, I promise to behave and allow you wonderful gentlemen to take as much of the screen time as you want.
Oh, Adonai, get
I
out
don't
of
really
here.
understand any of this.
Um,
Is this all private jokes?
No, that
Oh,
was
okay.
that was me literally saying that I'm going to allow you guys to take as much of the screen time as you want. I'm gonna let you be the stars.
hell yeah.
I mean, it's what you're here for. It's for you to carry the show.
Speaking about being a star, let's go on over to the man I met on the casting couch, Mr. Prylor. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I am Prylor. You can find me at fucking goddamn it. Yeah, you can find me at on Twitter at Prylor_TV. Oh, God, I always forget this. And then Prylor on Twitch. I gotta get better at that. But yeah. And we did not meet at the casting couch.
Alright. And last but not least, from our player side of things, we have none other than Mr. James C. UK. What up, sir? How you doing?
Same as was a few minutes ago, actually. Pretty alright.
Great.
Pretty alright. I'm James the UK. You can follow me at almost forgot there. Twitch.tv/James the UK. I do RPGs on my channel as well, with my brilliantly named Chambers of Roleplay. Get that reference. I've played multiple games and stuff like that. You can follow me on Twitter, even though I don't really post much on Twitter. It's just like I'm going live and all that malarkey. But yeah, we will be changing. We're currently playing Dungeon World on Sunday, but we are about to end that campaign and we're going to be moving on to Tales from the Loop. So that should be
Tales from the Loop? Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. No, I know the one you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of 80s that never happened game. Really eager to do that. And other than that, that's really about it. I have a schedule that I never keep to, but yeah, I've got a schedule. And I just play random games that I enjoy rather than playing games that I get burnt out on. And that's really about it. And also, this is my first time on Die Party. I got asked, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, welcome.
And then I bought Pirates.
That's right, yeah, you actually bought the book, so we'll be like, what pages are again, James?
I got it for £20 off. I mean, in my opinion, that's a bargain.
Yeah,
it is a bargain.
That's a hardcover or a softcover?
Hardcover. There it is.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. And it came with the PDF, so I got another copy of the PDF.
I don't buy books anymore because I move too often, so it just stopped. Hang on, I'm getting a call from HQ. Oh shit, Kaonix is joining us for character creation next week. What? That's awesome.
Okay.
Maybe
run that by your GM before.
I did, and you said okay.
No, I didn't.
He wasn't actually here. He was out of the room when you said it.
You did kind of only say it to us.
Oh, okay. Well, she's joining. So.
Well, I planned a game for 4 people, so now I'll have to get back to work. Thanks, Dave. But yeah, no problem.
Nice.
We'll get that done.
Nice.
Is there anything I can do to help, Wreckage?
Snaps pool cue, throws it to you, like kill one of your cast members.
Right. Well, I've already confessed my undying love to James, so it's gonna have to be Prylor, but he looks like he's pretty good in a fight. Look, Henley, stab yourself.
Anyways, Wreckage, let's hear some shoutouts from you, brother.
Hi everybody. I am Dr. Wreckage. I do things here. I do GMing only now. I'm not a character in any shows at the moment. I do LA at Night, Vampire the Masquerade on Monday nights,
it's a good show.
Which you should definitely come check out because it's an excellent show. I'm very excited to be doing this pirate game. I have got quite a lot of work to do in the next 2 weeks before playtime, but I have still quite a lot of work to do in the 1 week leading up to character creation. I'm very excited to play this game. I really want every episode to feel like the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the good one. The other
Good
two are
one.
okay.
There's
But
4 now,
But you
isn't there? There's
have
four
heard.
sequels.
there's 5 now. Don't even talk to me about the last 2, which barely qualify as entertainment.
They made a roller coaster out of it, man. Come on, it's entertaining.
There was a ride before.
You're actually killing Wreckage right now.
I know the ride came first. This is why it's great.
His soul is left after all of these Die Party shows. Like right now, you're like ferreting down into his the cavern that contains his soul, finding it and crushing it.
What are we
Yeah.
coming up on? Are we coming up on year 3 or 4 of me doing stuff with that? Well, what? Like I was literally like 3 or 4 months late to the beginning of Die Party. So how old is Die Party?
2011.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way it's been 6 years.
It has.
I'm gonna have to go like stare at a 12 gauge if it's been 6
Nah,
years.
it might be 2013 actually. I think is when we started.
Okay, thank you. That makes that's much closer to what I thought. So yeah, I've been doing Die Party since pretty much the beginning, and I've been a GM for most of it, and I'm very excited to do these 2 shows. And every time we do a show, I learn something about GMing a piece of television. And we're getting better at it, and I feel like every show we do is better than the last one. Which is why I'm very excited to move into this Pirates one, because we've learned a lot, and this is just going to be a good, fun time. And over in Vampire, I can do my my serious stuff with, you know, people dying and horrible, gritty 90s drama. And in this one, we can do crazy, you know, pirate stuff and knock ships over and swing on ropes and
Don't
Chandeliers.
make me
We've got
about
to string on
clear.
chandeliers. Got to have a chandelier.
yeah, chandeliers and all sorts of, you know, we're gonna kidnap the governor's daughter and then fall in love with her, and then abandon her for some whore on Tortuga or
You
the
know, I'm
Tortuga.
not going to lie. Horror very much better in bed.
I thought it was Buccaneer's butthole, not Tortuga.
Eugene, I want you to think very carefully before you commit to that being the accent of your nation. I want you to dwell on it for the next week, because whatever accent you say at the start of character creation is the one you're locked into.
Yep.
You think I won't do this accent?
Yo, he fucking will. He fucking will.
I fucking will.
And then you'll hate
Oh.
yourself forever because you goaded him into doing it.
You will have done this to both of us.
This is
all
your
of us.
What you're
fault.
doing to me is something you're doing to us.
Well, on that note of abusive emotional relationship, you're doing this to both of us. Why don't we?
Yuri is from other side of island. He's fine. West side of island, good island.
Oh, sweet God. Take us out, Dave. Play
All
us
right,
out,
guys.
keyboard cat.
So, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, you enjoyed tonight's episode. If you did, consider following the channel. And if you're feeling real saucy, why not subscribe and join the cockpit and get access to the best emotes on Twitch?
Spread the cock.
Spread the cock far and wide.
He's
That
big
is,
cock.
it is a good cock. It is very good cock. So, guys, we've got some stuff to talk about. Unfortunately, because of my absence of mind yesterday, we had to move Toxtradamus's a drawing board episode. I believe it's going to happen Tuesday next week. That is when we've moved it. If it doesn't go there, it'll go onto the Thursday slot. So right now, basically. Unfortunately, that's just how it had to happen. There is no Gambit this week either.
Oh yeah,
because-
it's definitely worth pointing out that this show usually occurs on Wednesdays.
Yes.
For all those people who are joining us now, we've moved it one day. Next week it will be Wednesday at 5 p.m.
So the
PST.
16th of August, basically. So Yeah, I had to, no more Gambit, no Gambit this week because TI-17 is still happening. I think it's TI-7. It might be TI-7. 7, yeah, not 17. So Kika is still out for that. So, but Whiskers and Whiskey should be happening. Should be. I'll have to double check with Kika's to see if she's going to be around for that. But Omen is back on for sure.
Also,
and
I'm guest starring on Omen this week.
yeah, so we've got I believe 2 more episodes of Omen before we finish that out. So yeah, Wreckage is going to send us off into drive the spaceship into the sun, as he likes to say.
I didn't get to do that, so I'll have to do it in Omen. First
Yeah.
of all, get a spaceship. Second of all, drive it into
Look,
the sun.
man, we've been in the spaceship in Omen, so whatever.
I have not seen that show, but me and Graham have been planning a scintillating guest.
I don't want to hear you ever say the word scintillating ever again. As long as I
What's
live.
wrong with scintillating?
Not only is it scintillating, but me and Graham have designed.
I don't like it when you two get together. I want to get a restraining order for the 2 of you to not be close to each other or on the internet with each other.
The last time we got together, it killed one of your characters.
It killed me. Yeah, I don't like it. So, as always, LA at Night next week as well. Aside from that, nothing really exciting is being changed around this week. So, yeah. Guys, hit up the Patreon. Make sure you get access so that you can come and create islands of pleasure or pain, depending on which way you want to go. But yeah, check out the schedule for more information. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.
Bye.